Welcome to LOA Today. Walt and Alex King here. Today is Wednesday, March the 20th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 12 noon in London, and Sydney, Australia is at 11 p.m. at night. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we're not quite sure if Kelly Pretty is going to be joining us or not. We haven't heard from her, but when she shows up, if she shows up, we'll just include her in the conversation and already we'll have a path going at that point because that's what we usually do. Now,
Yep.
the only thing we can't tell you for sure is what that path is going to be. We don't know yet, but we'll find out. That's the way it works. I mean, we never know until we get going, right?
Exactly.
That's the way it is. So if you're listening to the live stream, feel free to put a question or a comment in. We'll be happy to address that. In the meantime, I'm just going to get started by talking a little bit about the end of the last podcast that Alex and I did with Bill, because Alex, you and I were especially talking about how we both have developed a lot more respect for script writers, for screenwriters, because
Mm,
our own experience writing The Grass is Greener, the first episode of The Grass is Greener, and that respect continues to today as well.
yeah.
Bill mentioned that the Mercury retrograde thing that could be affecting us, and he even tried to clear it for us yesterday. And we were talking before the podcast about, well, he also did a clearing for you too, trying to help you with the insomnia. And you commented that you were feeling better this morning, which was, that's a sign of improvement right there.
Yeah.
I think I'm also feeling it with the script writing too. I think I'm feeling that the script writing is easier now, and I haven't actually done any script writing since then. So
It's real easy when you're not doing anything.
well, this is true, yes. Very true. That is the way that works. But no, well, attitude is everything, right? And when you're feeling
Yeah.
better about something, it's just easier to do stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not even sure when I'm going to get to it today because we got a fairly full schedule here. But
hmm
once I get down to it, I think it's going to just flow a lot easier. So maybe instead of getting, 6 minutes of episode written in 4 hours, maybe I can get 10 minutes written in 4 hours, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Any
Well,
kind
I'm
of
definitely
improvement
gonna see
progress.
if, yeah, I'm definitely going to see if between today and tomorrow, I'm going to try to get to it.
Oh, okay, good. Well, between the two of us, we'll just plow through it. Um,
Yep.
and I think it's starting off good. I mean, we're setting poor Nance up in this terrible negative spiral, but it's an interesting one.
But she's
So
a
I
negative
think we're on the right track.
person. So,
That's part of the challenge is, what are you going to do?
yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just got a note from Kelly. She says she's trying to log on, so she's going to be joining us pretty quickly. Um, the
Oh,
other thing, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I mentioned to you before the podcast. Last night, I woke up and I realized I've been thinking about stuff that Louise and I have been dealing with. Louise was really feeling pretty down yesterday, and I was kind of feeling helpless to help her. Like I didn't really know what to do to help her, which seems weird. I mean, I do a podcast on this subject, and I didn't know what to do to help. Um, but last night, I started thinking about the book Ask and is Given, this one by Abraham Hicks, Esther and Jerry Hicks, and about halfway through the book, they have that scale, the emotional guidance scale. And they teach you that the reason they give you that scale is to help you have like a starting place. You identify where you are on the scale. If you're feeling really depressed, you're at the bottom of the scale. If you're feeling angry, you're at number 17 toward the bottom, things like that. So you identify where you are, and then you feel it. And once you've felt it, then you try to aim for something one step up. And they
hmm
actually have said go one step up. Now, I always interpreted that as go 1, 2, 3, 4 steps up, however far you can reach. But I
yeah.
realized last night, no, what they're actually saying is you actually just go one step up and you
Right.
climb the ladder one rung at a time. And each
hmm
rung of the ladder, you actually are supposed to take a moment to feel that next higher level until you climb your way to the top.
hmm
Now, I haven't tried it this morning because, well, mainly because there wasn't enough time to do it before the podcast. But I'm planning
Right.
to do it later on with Louise, and I have a feeling this is going to make a difference because when most of us, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else, but I think
hmm
for myself, I don't like feeling negative emotion. And so when I want to climb the scale, if I'm starting from the bottom rung, I mean, I don't want to have to go through, 15 rungs of negativity just to get to one positive thought. That's like, oh God, who wants to go through all that, right? You
Mhm.
know? But then I remembered, and this was the big breakthrough. Wait a minute, I don't have to spend a day there. I could just
Right.
spend a minute. If I could just spend 1 minute in each one of those levels for 15 levels, I've just spent 15 minutes feeling a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better.
Yeah.
I said,
Mhm.
oh, geez. All this time I've been making something so easy, so much more difficult than it had to be because I had this fear, lower level feeling, right? This fear
Yeah.
of going through the negative emotions.
Yeah.
So,
Hi, Kelly.
oh, and here comes Kelly. There she is. Let's make sure she's got
Yeah, make
her
sure
mic.
she's unmuted.
Yeah. Okay. I've got her unmuted at my end. There. Are you there, Kelly?
Hi.
Ah, there she
There you
is.
go.
Sorry,
That's all right. We're glad that you
it
made it.
was interesting going on, but we're here.
Okay. Okay. We're talking about the Abraham Hicks book, Asking It Is Given, where they got the 22-point emotional guidance scale. And I was just commenting to Alex and to our audience that I had kind of a breakthrough last night because I realized that when Abraham teaches us how to use that scale, whoops, and your picture just froze up. I'm not sure what that's all about. But when Abraham's talking about that
Are you,
scale,
are
he
you
talks about it. Whoops.
We can hear you. We can't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Ah, now you're back. Is your voice coming through?
I think it's working now.
Oh, okay.
Is it working?
All right.
Your sound comes in and out a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. It sounds like it's a
Oh,
connection issue of some kind. And your picture is kind of at times rebuilding itself, which usually means it just reconnected and it's trying to catch up again.
Mhm. Could be a Wi-Fi issue.
okay.
Yeah, it could be Wi-Fi. That's true. It does kind of look like that. So anyway, what I was describing is I was thinking about the 22-point guidance scale last night. And Abraham, of course, teaches that what you're supposed to do is kind of identify where you are on that scale. And then once you figure that out, you're supposed to climb the scale one rung at a time, right? And I had always taken the idea of, well, why not go two or three steps at a time? If I'm at, anger, I can get my way up to doubt pretty quickly, so I'll just jump up to doubt. But what I realized last night was, no, that's not what Abraham had in mind. They wanted us to go through each one of the steps one rung at a time, going up.
Mhm.
And I asked myself, well, why am I skipping steps? And I realized it was because I don't want to have to feel all that stuff. And the reason I didn't want to feel all this stuff because I don't like feeling that way. The breakthrough was recognizing I only have to feel that way for 30 seconds to a minute. I don't have to live there. So all that is my way of saying I'm going to start experimenting with literally climbing the scale one rung at a time and see what kind of a difference that makes. Now, do you work with that scale at all, Kelly, when you're doing your coaching or whatever?
Um, can you? I'm really struggling with my network.
Oh, the network's giving you a hard time. I mean, we hear you at times. It's like it's coming in and out, like you need to reconnect to the Wi-Fi or something. Right
Yeah.
now you're coming
Okay.
through. Right now it's coming through okay.
Okay. Sorry about this. I was trying to close down some applications to see if that made a difference, but I
That
can't
could.
even get
Yeah,
back on.
closing the applications can definitely help because that cuts down on processor power and disk usage, so that's good. So
Okay. Well, maybe it will work now.
were you able to hear what I was saying?
Sort of. Not really, to be honest.
Not really. Oh, okay. I was talking about the emotional guidance scale and how I
Oh yeah.
recognize the importance of climbing that scale one rung at a time instead of trying to jump two or three rungs at a time. And that the reason I had resisted that
Yeah.
in the past is because I felt like I didn't want to feel all those negative emotions climbing the scale, not recognizing the fact that I don't have to do it for a long period of time. 15, 30 seconds is plenty. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, well, I could do that. I just don't want to spend all day on, feeling miserable. So I was wondering if you have run into that, or I don't even know how to what degree you even use the scale in your practice as a coach, but have you run into that at all?
People have used it when they've coached me a few years ago, but I don't personally use it.
You don't.
Mainly because I work kind of intuitively. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to emotions, they don't pass through the body unless we let ourselves feel it,
Mm,
whatever's going on. And it's not a problem, but one of the things that I think the law of attraction promotes is that we can overcome our down periods by using the power of positive thought. And to an extent, we can, but we can't run away from what's actually going on deep, deep down inside. And that's going to
mm,
come and, rear its ugly head at some point if we don't face our truth and we don't
mm,
actually like look at why do I feel like this and let ourselves feel those emotions. Because the more we push those emotions away, the more it creates resistance in the body. So for me, I try and help people to actually, like you said, well, you don't need to feel those emotions for a long time, but if you don't let them pass through the body and you actually let yourself have some form of physical release, that could be crying, that could be sitting with the emotion of sadness, then it just sits within the body and it actually comes up again, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, 3 years down the line. And that's the types of emotions that actually cause illness as well.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, that's a big thing. And well, of course, Alex, what we were dealing with yesterday for you, Bill was trying to help clear the insomnia issue for you, and it's the same kind of thing. It's not illness, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't be sitting there with that nice, pleasant look on your face right now. You'd be in bed going, "Oh God, I feel so miserable," but you're
Yeah.
not doing that. So it's not that level of seriousness. But nevertheless, I mean, on some level, I think you probably realize that you're creating the insomnia. You just haven't quite figured out how you're doing it and how to clear it yet.
Right, right.
So now the question, of course, tied into what I was just bringing up, the 22-point scale is there an emotional hot button? Is there some point on the scale that you find yourself at when you're dealing with the insomnia? And you'd be the only person who would know the answer to that.
Well,
But
I don't
I
know
know
the
so much stuff.
so
Say again?
that I don't know the scale.
Oh, the scale? Oh, well, it's basically, I mean, I can just read it to you. The lowest point of the scale is actually 5 words: fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. That's like the very lowest end of the scale. And then it
Nope.
comes up to insecurity. Actually, insecurity, guilt, and unworthiness is the next level. Then jealousy, then hatred and rage, then revenge, then anger, then discouragement, then blame, worry, doubt,
Worry.
disappointment. Worry. Okay, so you're about number 14 right now on
Okay.
the scale. All right. Which means that if you were going to try to use the method I just described, the next level up would be doubt. And so
Okay.
the question at that point is, could you find your way up to that next level of the scale to doubt and feel the doubt that you're feeling? And then if you could
I
do that, then
doubt
what's
that I'll stop worrying. How about that?
hey, it's doubt, doubt is doubt. And then the next level up is disappointment. And then you can work your way up from there. Disappointment, overwhelmment, frustration, pessimism, boredom, contentment, hopefulness, optimism. You can see you're kind of working your way up into the positive
Yeah.
ranks. But that's
Okay.
the idea. Yeah. So we also have a question, by the way, and I just noticed that Jason left us a question. So why don't we address that before we continue with what we're doing with Ask and is Given? He says, how can I manifest something that in the past I wouldn't have been able to afford? For example, the perfect apartment or car, etc., if I don't have the money right this second. And it's interesting the way he phrased that. How could I manifest something that in the past I wouldn't have been able to afford? Kind of suggesting that he can afford it now, but he couldn't afford it then. But
If you couldn't afford it now, but you can afford it, I mean, you couldn't afford it then, but you can afford it now, that means you've manifested it.
or at least you're able to manifest it a lot easier because you don't
Yeah.
have the money issue is so much in the way. There's less resistance
Right.
going on there. Yeah. But let's go to the life coach. What do you think, Kelly? How do you answer Jason's question?
Well, maybe he's trying to use the law of attraction already by saying it like that.
Okay.
Mm.
I don't know though. It's hard to say, isn't it? But maybe that's him trying to manifest it by using that use of language.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the most important part of manifestation is your emotional state. So like making sure that every day, you can try and control your thought process, etc. But really like trying to live from a place of joy as much as you possibly can. So like practicing gratitude, and even as you go throughout your day, like having mantras that make you feel really connected to what you want to manifest in. So it might be, for instance, a job. So you want to like say that I have a job where I'm earning X amount of money per day and it feels really amazing. And then just saying that over and over and over again in your head, because you'll just manifest that into existence eventually. But the most important thing is like living your life as much as possible in a high vibrational state, in a place of joy, in a place of happiness. And that's really hard when things aren't going that well in your life. So it's about just being really gentle with yourself and kind with yourself, and knowing that it's going to get better, and just always trying to like take a baby step to creating a better day the next day, and then the day after that being even better, because it's really difficult to go from here to there, like you were saying,
Yeah.
Walt. So yeah, so that's probably the best advice I could give. In terms of like apartments, you want to probably start putting action in motion, because we can put all our intentions out there, we can ask the universe for all the things that we want, put it on our vision board, but unless we actually start putting action in place, things won't be manifested. So I would start looking at apartments that you want to buy, going and viewing them, even if you think you can't afford them right now. You're setting the intention out there to the universe that you're serious, and you're almost like faking your brain into believing that you can afford it. So doing
Mm.
those types of things is really powerful as well.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. I liked your observation too at the beginning there that he was perhaps trying to put an LOA spin on it to get control of the thought process. And when you said that, it made me think about what we were just talking about, the emotional guidance scale. So Jason, you
Mm-hmm.
might consider just you can do a Google and find that there are guidance scales published all over the place. A lot of people have reproduced it. Just Google the emotional guidance scale; it'll come up, and then take a look at it and try to identify where you are on the scale. Take some inventory. What are you feeling right now? Because right, what we're thinking about right now, what we're thinking and feeling, that's what we're attracting next. And what we're experiencing right now, that's what we thought about and felt before. So we've got this constant progression going on. And because of that, if you focus on, what am I feeling right now? Even if it's in the negative range, at least okay, I'm in the negative range. Fine. Well, then I can feel it. I can experience it. And then now that you got the scale in front of you, you can try climbing the steps. So I mean, the way Kelly said it was good. You try to work for an improvement every single day. That's a good way to do it. But you can also do it within a day just by using that guidance scale and just feeling your way up from wherever you are right now. So if you're at, like Alex said, she was feeling at worry. If you can go up to the next level up, disappointment, I think it was. Well, you can get there. It's not that far of a stretch, and just work
Mm-hmm.
your way up the scale and see how it works out for you. Because, like I discovered this morning in my ruminations, oh, yeah, I don't have to spend a lot of time there. I just have to feel it for a bit. And well, how'd you say it, Kelly? You have to let it pass through your body? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's like letting the emotion be there, because when we like a really good way of dealing with this is through journaling. Like journaling, you're basically like writing out all your frustrations, all the things you're angry about, and it's like telling the universe, you know what, like I'm not trying to hide from this. I know that this is how my body is really feeling, and then from
Hmm.
there you can kind of move on. Like over the last 6 months, things have been sometimes pretty challenging for me, and like some of the stuff that I've written in my journals could not let people read, because it's like, you know, you can be in a place of like getting out all your anger, and that's a
Hmm.
really positive way of doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Now, Jason did give us some follow-up comments. He says, so is saying affirmations internally as effective as saying them out loud?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have that question myself.
Okay.
I think it's more powerful to say them out loud, but you can be just as powerful by saying it internally. So, like, I manifested my fiance through saying it in my head over and over and over again. I'm in a loving and committed relationship, and we're excited about what the future holds. And I would say that every day, over and over and over again, walking to and from work, and it was in my head. And actually, when I take the dog a walk now, my new thing that I've restarted just in the last week, because I felt myself being in quite a kind of negative place more than I would like, is having like 4 affirmations I say over and over and over again 40 minutes when I'm taking the dog for a walk, and I come back and I feel like a different person, and the stuff that's been manifesting in my life is really amazing just off the back of that. And I don't need to say it out loud, I just say it in my head, because we're reprogramming our subconscious. It
Right.
doesn't need to be loud.
And plus, what we're also trying to do is connect the feelings. So what it really comes down to is take a measurement for yourself, compare how you feel when you say it out loud to how you feel when you're thinking it. If you're thinking it just as strongly in feeling measurement as you are when you're saying it out loud, then great, it's working. You're there. If you're finding that, when you're just saying it inside and you're not really feeling it very much, but you feel it a lot more when you say it out loud, if I were you, I'd say it out loud. I would go with what feels stronger. Where does the stronger feeling come from? Um,
Yeah.
and Jason also added, he says he feels pretty positive, he says honestly, which tells me go back to the book because you don't have to be down the negative area at all. You can, if you're feeling like optimistic, you're at number 5 on the scale. First of all, you have only 4 more steps to go to get to the top. So you're close to the top at that point. So you just work from optimism up to positive expectation, up to enthusiasm, up to passion, and then up to joy. And then you're there. And it's a much quicker trip for you. So good on you for being that positive right now, for feeling that way. Take advantage of it. Just because you're in the positive range doesn't mean you have to stop there. You can keep climbing. Go for the
Mhm.
gusto, right? So, and he seems to like the answers. That's awesome, he says. I think we helped him. Did we answer the question for you, Alex? Because you said that was also a question you had.
Yeah, because I do my affirmations in my head, but at the same time I am a firm believer of speaking things into existence. So I
Mm,
was I was always wondering which is better. But now I don't
what do
think it matters. It just as long as you're
Okay.
doing them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the main thing is anytime that we're doing work, that's for sure. And that's what I call this. People often think of the doing as being getting out and going to hunt for that job or find that person or whatever. And that's true. That is doing. But for me, the doing is the internal work,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
in some ways it's the harder work. It's harder than doing the other stuff, but it's also the much more worthwhile stuff. But that to me is the real work. Whatever I can do to connect inside to make myself get into a better feeling place and focus my thoughts the way I want to. If I can do that, I've done my work for the day. I feel like I've had a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, I don't see other questions coming in just yet. Anybody else who has a question they want us to address, feel free to type it in if you're listening to the live stream. But in the meantime, let's just kind of continue with our own topic, so to speak. I'm going to go to Alex. I'm going to ask you the when I was talking earlier about climbing the scale 1 rung at a time. You kind of said, "Yeah, that sounded right to you." What was it that was resonating with you about that? What was it that was saying, "Yeah, that's really a good idea"?
What about worry?
Well, about identifying, you identified that you were at worry on the scale, but also the climbing of the scale. Because when I said, climb it 1 rung at a time instead of 2 or 3, that you reacted well to that. So I was wondering what you were thinking about when you reacted well to that.
I mean, you have to do everything one step at a time. That's just how life works. You can't just skip up the steps. Like like you're literally exercising and skipping up the steps. Like you just can't, there's levels to this stuff, you know what I mean? So you got to do it one part at a time.
Maybe that's one of the advantages slash disadvantages that I have for being so tall because I'm used to going up 2 steps at a time. So my legs are long, you know?
That's why you thought you could do it in your mind, but you
That's
can't.
exactly it. Yeah. Which is a good reminder. Like, no, it's actually good to go 1 step at a time. And now
Yep.
that I think about it, I don't go 2 steps at a time anymore. My legs aren't doing as well as they used to 25 years ago.
Or anybody's.
Yeah, right. I imagine also, Kelly, you kind of when you're coaching somebody, you're working with them to try to make those incremental improvements, session by session or even within a session, which is probably what also kind of keeps you going as a coach because you need to get satisfaction out of it too, that you're actually, making progress or they're making progress and you're helping them to do that. But I mean, is that like a conscious part of what you're doing, or is it like you said earlier, you're just kind of going with whatever intuitively comes to you?
Yeah, I very much work with like whatever you want to call it, universe, um, God, angels, whatever it is you want to call it. And then I just trust that whatever's going to happen in that 90 minutes is meant to happen. And yeah, there's pretty big transformations that happen in people's lives. Like a lot of the time, it's really scary to kind of go there to like trauma from childhood and things like that. But I kind of let people connect in through meditation and other methods like that and connect into their subconscious and the things that are actually blocking them subconsciously, because we can do all of this law of attraction work as much as we want, but actually if we have subconscious beliefs that we're not good enough and that we're not worthy of our dreams, we're not going to ever manifest them into existence. So my job, I guess, is to help people go on a really deep level and work out what are the subconscious blocks that are coming up. And they often come from childhood. They come from our parents. They come from experiences from when we were kids. And then I help them to release those emotions, pain, and experiences out of the body.
And isn't it true that most often in a therapeutic or coaching situation, you're dealing with people who are resisting their own resistances, by which I mean, and we all have resistances, right? We have these little blocks, the programs, the subconscious stuff that's been playing all this time that's blocking us and keeping us from getting where we want to go to. But there's also the resistance to even look at that. Like, I don't even want to
Yeah.
have to deal with that. So you got resistance to resistance. I would
Hmm.
imagine that's like a common theme that happens a lot.
Yeah, it's huge because we put a lot of things in a box and pretend that they haven't happened. It's part of being a human being. Like, there's
Hmm.
a lot of people in the world that have had extremely challenging situations happen to them when they were children, and environments that weren't healthy and parents that didn't do as good a job as they could have done. Like, I fundamentally believe that part of a parent's job is to actually mess up, because that's what helps us to get into this place of like, how can I get out of feeling like this, which is the first step of somebody becoming awakened. And usually the first step is somebody really realizing their potential and their truth and healing themselves. And then once you've kind of started going down that path, you open yourself up to like a totally different world, a totally different way of living, and really being able to forgive the past and see it as a blessing, even though some people have been through some really horrendous stuff. So yeah, it's really rewarding, but it's not easy to go into those places at all.
And a
Hmm.
bunch of parents who are listening in are all breathing a sigh of relief, like, "Oh, good. I made all of those mistakes, and it was actually a good thing. I'm glad to hear that."
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible, I think, to not mess your children up in some way, shape, or form, no matter what background they come from, whether they come from a rich background, whether they come from a poor background. It's just part of being a human being. Every single person in the world has parts of their self that need to be healed. And there's a lot of people that believe that that's not true, and it's because they're too scared to look at themselves. So it's just them pushing back on that because they're too scared to actually look within. So it's just part of being a human. It's part of the journey that we're on.
Alex, I can see, I'm hearing you and see you nodding your head. Yes, 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 yes. This is resonating with you. I can tell.
Yeah, it is.
Anything in particular?
Just the fact that you know things happen. So you gotta as you get older, you gotta learn how to toughen up and deal with it. And but you also have to at some point look inside yourself and figure out, okay, where does this feeling come from? Why do I feel this way? And how do I heal myself? And you may need help doing that, or you may figure it out yourself. You never know.
This is true. Well, it's what life coaches and therapists are for. That's why
Right.
Kelly has a job, which
Yeah.
is a good thing. It's a very good thing. And it's
Hmm.
also how Kelly, you said you manifested your mate that way, and you said something else, but I can't remember what else you talked about that you manifested that, you know, just by following this general intuitive approach.
Um,
Or maybe I'm just
well,
not
quite a
remembering
lot
right.
of stuff, I guess. Like I was promoted in my business that I used to work in. Um, and I sold my property for like loads more money than it was worth in comparison to other
Nice.
properties around me. Like
Yeah.
when £3,000, which is a lot. That's like
Mm.
30 something dollars, $1,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, and it was for a small flat as well. It wasn't like it was, a massive big house. So it was,
That's
um,
big.
a huge chunk of the value of the house, if that makes sense. Um,
I
but
know
yeah,
what you
I
mean
mean, I,
actually, because I went through a similar thing with a condo one time, because I had a condo many years ago that it was a mess actually, and I actually hired a crew to go in and clean it up and put in new carpeting and paint all the walls and all that kind of thing to dress it up. But at that time in that area, in that complex, typically those condos were selling around 45,000, something like that, and I ended up selling it for 62,000, so I was pretty happy with that.
Nice.
wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And I didn't know law of attraction, which made it even better. I had never heard of law of attraction at that point. But I was doing the right things. I just didn't know it. I mean, I
Yeah.
was feeling positive about it. I was feeling optimistic. I was like, somehow we're going to sell it for more than that. I need to, so we will. And we did,
Yep.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, the energy of you putting effort into doing it up as well is really important. Like the more we look after our belongings, the more we put love into our belongings. And say, for instance, you're trying to sell a property. If you're selling a property from a place of, I can't wait to get rid of this place, I can't wait to move out, you're gonna
Oh yeah.
not sell it for as much money. If you're able to like
Right.
put loads of love into it, you're able to, when I sold my flat, I really didn't want to get rid of it. I loved it so much and I was so
Mm,
grateful for it. And I know that that's why, because when people go in, they sense that energy of it being loved. And that's why you can sell your properties for more money. As soon as you get stuck in a story of the property being annoying or frustrating or why hasn't it sold on time, then that's when we create bad energy around it. So, and that's the same with everything in life.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. That's very true. In fact, when I sold my condo, now that I think about it, the at that point in time, the real estate market was real slow. And they were saying it could take 3 to 6 months to sell this thing. But I found a realtor who had a better law of attraction mindset. Excuse me. And she said, "Oh no, we can get this thing sold in less time than that." It sold in 2 weeks. So I
Nice.
got
Wow,
my best price in 2 weeks.
that's amazing.
And it was the first buyer who came along. He just said, "Yeah, okay, I'll buy it."
Wow, love
It
that.
was great. Yeah, it was wonderful. So yeah, I agree that how you feel about it makes a huge, huge difference, and that's true for anything. Now the
Mhm.
hard part, of course, is when you're really wanting to attract something, it hasn't shown up yet, and you're feeling discouraged about it. That's when it's hard to feel that high level of confidence, which is why another reason why Kelly has a job. But when we're dealing with, I keep running into resistance with this thing. I can't seem to get it. The law of attraction isn't working for me. And it just kind of builds and builds and builds until you feel like this is never going to work. It's never going to work out for me. What am I going to do? And that's the hard place to climb back from. Now we talked about in terms of the emotional guidance system, and Kelly, you talked about in terms of an intuitive thing, but surely the first step there is recognizing, you know what, I can turn it around even though I don't feel like I can at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you want to
Right?
chat, Alex?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I was just saying, does Alex want to say anything?
Oh, but he was talking to you though.
Oh, were you? Oh, sorry. Um, yeah, I guess so. Like, I feel like it depends on your beliefs around it is massive, but also sometimes things are just not right for you, right? And doors are being shut in your face for a reason. Like the universe is actually guiding you to something better. And I feel like there's such a thing as resilience and there's such a thing as keep going, keep going. But there's also a point that has to come where you're like, actually, maybe I'm being guided to something better and trusting in that process. Because I think that we try and control a lot when we're able to release the control and trust in something bigger than ourselves, and that's when really amazing things happen.
And Nasha's asking a question that I think actually everyone here is going to be able to answer, but I'll start with Kelly. She says, because I think she was referring to something you talked about. She says, please tell us how you manifested your mate.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I did all of the law of attraction things. So I put it on my vision board. I had a affirmation that I would say out loud every single day. I would really connect in with that energy of him already being here, knowing that he's already here, he's on his way. And then I would stay really, really committed to that vision. So, yeah, I mean, when things were maybe not going so well and I was going on dates and they weren't going so well, I would really commit to that vision that that's all right, he's not the one for me. I know that the perfect person for me is on his way. And I was really able at that point in my life to not be disheartened by that. I, it took a lot of willpower, but it was just a knowingness that he was already on his way and really connecting to that. So meditation really helped because then I could connect into his energy. So if she wants to reach out to me, I can send her my meditation that I've done for people. And also self-love is massive. It's a key that people do not realize how important it is. Until you love yourself, you will not be able to manifest that person in. And you'll manifest people in that are going to just literally highlight the parts of yourself that you still need to work on. And yeah, write a list of all the traits that you want in somebody, and then look at that list and see if you're showing up in the world in that way. And if there's, you have to be really honest with yourself. And if there's things on that list that you're not showing up as, say you want somebody who is really successful or got their shit together, excuse the term, you need to make sure that you've done the work as well. You can't just expect somebody to come in and save you. And I'm not suggesting she's doing that, but I see a lot of women that expect a man to come and save them. And we have to save ourselves first, and then the universe will give us the gift of our soulmate or the one, you know,
Oh, that's
whatever
so
it is.
true. Yeah, that's so true. I mean, in my own story, until I was willing to let go of two things, I couldn't bring Louise into my life. And those
Mhm.
two things were number one, the belief that I couldn't meet anybody who was going to stay with me. And number two, the belief that I was worthy of someone who would stay with me. And I got rid of the second one first. That one I got rid of about 4 months before, and then a month before is when I kind of threw in the towel and said I'm not going to be able to find anybody at all. I quit, and I basically threw out the window the idea that I could find somebody who would actually want to stay with me because I just gave up on all of it. It was the only way I could get rid of it was just to say, okay, I give up. I'm not even going to find a mate. Forget this. Screw this. Throw it out the window. I'm done. And then she shows up a month later because I let go of all that resistance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a little
Love
disorienting. But once you understand what happens, it makes a whole lot of sense. But when it's happening, it's like, what the heck's going on here?
that. And that, like, I love that, Walt, because that's like literally proof of letting go. Like, you've totally let go there, and she's come into your life. Like, when I got engaged to my partner, literally the day he proposed, I said to him, you know what? I don't need you to propose anymore. Like, I love you. You love me. That's all that matters. We don't need to get married. And he proposed that day. And it's because I
Yeah.
let
Wow.
go of like all the resistance, all of the need, because I was really wanting that as a sign of our solitude, and I don't even think that's the right word, our partnership. And
Hmm.
it's because I've given up so much of my life to move down to a different country. I left my job. I'd literally like given up a lot for our relationship. So for me, I was like, well, in return, I would really like some kind of commitment. But I was so attached to the need for it. And as soon as I let it go and I'd worked through the reasons, okay, why do I really want this? Then I
Mhm.
was able to come out the other side. And then literally the shift in energy, he proposed that day. So
That's crazy.
it
The
can,
same day.
miracles can happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to
Fact.
have it happen that fast, that's really something. Wow. Now, now I have to ask you, did you find that to be as disorienting as I found it to be? Because I mean, it sounds like you actually knew about law of attraction at that point, so maybe you were kind of ready for it. For me, I wasn't ready for it, and it just threw me. Like, wait a minute, I gave all this stuff up, and now she shows up. What's going on here?
Yeah, I was definitely ready for it. Like I I waited like a year. Like it took a year for me to manifest him basically. I did all my stuff in January and then he came in November.
Mhm.
So you'd had plenty of time. Okay, well that's good. Plus, you also knew how LOA worked. I think that makes a big difference. If you understand how it works, then when you go through it, it's just easier to accept what's going on, even though it's a little bit, of a rocky road or
Yeah.
a lot of waves, that kind of thing. At least you kind of maintain your equanimity just because, okay, this makes sense. I know this is what's supposed to happen. This is okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
How how
definitely.
about you, Alex? I mean, you were nodding your head throughout all this and going, So some of this was resonating. What parts were the parts that were really, hitting your high points?
Definitely the letting go and just, letting go and let God and allowing things to happen for you as opposed to trying so hard to do so much. You
Mm,
know, you sometimes you just got to float down that river.
yeah, yeah. Let go of the oars, right?
Yeah, let go of the oars.
Besides, your arms get awful tired when you keep paddling.
That is so true.
Might as well take the easy route, right?
Yeah.
Where you just Staples easy button.
Float, float.
Float down that river. So,
Mhm.
okay. Well, hopefully that helps. Oh, actually, yeah, Nasha says, wow, that is so true, Kelly. So she was really resonating with what you were saying. That's good.
Mhm.
So let's see.
Good.
We've talked about getting jobs. We've talked about finding mates and so forth. Health. We haven't talked about health. Kind of gets second shift around here. We don't get a lot of attention to it, but it is important because I mean, Abraham points that out in their book, Money and the Law of Attraction, which is about money. It's about attracting wealth. But they point out if you don't have your health, you can't really attract much of anything else. You're just going to continue to attract all this bad stuff because you're in a bad place all the time. So they place a
Right.
lot of, they spend a fair amount of the book just talking about attracting good health. So
Mhm.
again, I'm going to go to Kelly because she's the life coach on this. Do you get a lot of clients who they have an underlying health issue and it's undermining their ability to attract the stuff that they really want in their lives just because they got a health issue?
Um, Not really, to be honest.
No.
No, I haven't really worked with anybody that's had health issues. I guess I've worked with somebody who had issues with conceiving a baby, and yeah, it was really difficult for that person to um to trust in the universe that it was going to be okay. So like there's a really amazing woman called Gabrielle Bernstein, and she wrote a book called The Universe Has Your Back. And I saw her live in London with my partner a few years ago, and she'd been trying for a baby for like 2 years. Every time she spoke in the audience, she would tell people, I know the baby's coming because the universe is giving me all these signs. She went for another 2 years. So you're talking 4 years of her speaking that into existence, telling thousands of people, I know there's a baby coming. I know it because the universe is giving me signs. And I really was sat there going, I really hope that this is true, because if it's not, it's going to be disastrous for her and her emotional state, but also her career potentially as well. And she had a baby. She had a baby. Yeah, she had one about 6 months ago. So her consistent knowingness that that baby was coming at the perfect time, and knowing that maybe she's got certain parts to heal in herself before she's ready, it was just so inspiring to see that actually come to fruition and actually happen. So I don't think that really answers your question, but it's just an example of how the law of attraction can really give us our dreams, even when it feels like the doctors are saying it's not possible, everyone else is saying it's not possible. But if you truly believe in your core that it is possible, then it is.
And I think what you're actually describing there does tie in. I'll show you how I see it tying in a second. But it lays out how even when we're trying very, very hard to think something into existence, to speak it into existence, we can still have a lot of resistance in the way. I mean, if it took her 4 years, there was a lot of resistance going on there. But she basically used her determination to break through that resistance. I mean, I'm determined I'm going to have this baby. That's essentially what her message was all about. And she just stuck at it. It's kind of like pounding at a wall with a large hammer. If you do that long enough, you're going to break through the wall.
Yep.
So she did. She just said, I'm just going to keep going till I break through this wall. Now, would it have been possible for her to get through those resistances in other ways? Yeah, probably. There were probably ways to do that. But that was her best way to get there. And if that was her best way, then it was her best way. That's all there is to that. So how do I tie that into health issues? I've actually known a lot of people who have had health issues. And the one common factor that I think all of them have in common, is when you're dealing with a health issue, particularly if it's a chronic health issue, it is the dominant thing in your thought process, in your life, in your day-to-day existence. You're constantly feeling the symptoms. You're constantly feeling whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's a broken leg or a damaged heart or a cancer or something, whatever it is. If you're dealing with it on a regular basis, that becomes your life. And when it becomes your life, it tears you down. It makes you feel lousy. And when you feel lousy, you're in your wrong place for attracting what you want. So it's a really, really big deal to overcome those resistances. And if you don't, I mean, how many times have we heard stories about people who got really, really sick and their lives just kind of fell apart? They closed up shop and stayed at home and waited to die, or they just spent their time in hospitals, or they're seeing doctors all the time, and all their conversations are about seeing doctors and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, it just becomes a negative self-fulfilling prophecy. So, and each time I run into somebody like that, and I've experienced it myself. I talked about last year how I had these ligament issues, and I was able to overcome them using deliberate creation principles. But it's hard to do, and unless you've got somebody who can help you walk through it, or unless you've really, really studied the law of attraction teachings that are out there and learned, okay, this is on me. I'm the one who has to start focusing on what I want. Even though I have all these signals telling me, oh no, I can't have it. Life is miserable. It's not going to work out for me. It just wasn't meant for me. I'm so, poor me. Oh, woe is me. We have that choice, but it doesn't feel like it at the time. It doesn't feel like it when we're in the middle of it. And that's what makes it so hard to climb out when you're dealing with a health issue. So for me, I mean, I guess I'm not terribly surprised, Kelly, because I found that most life coaches tend to attract certain kinds of clients. It's always one kind. Like some life coaches, all they get are money clients. Other coaches, all they get are relationship clients. And so and you sound like you get a lot of relationship clients, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So I can't say I'm terribly surprised, but those who, like, for instance, we had uh, a person on one of our programs last fall. I can't remember exactly when it was, when Patty Framo was still one of my co-hosts. And this person came on, she was an intuitive healer, and all of her clients are people who are dealing with health issues, or like 90% of them, huge numbers of people. So
Yeah.
clearly that's the kind of person that she's able to help the most. And it's always the same story over and over again. You have to find a way to get past the symptoms in your mind and your thought process. It's not always
Hmm.
easy to do,
No, it's not easy
but it's worth it.
at all.
It's a
And it's quite
lot
Yeah.
easier.
educational. What's that?
I said it's a lot easier when, for me, I have health issues, but they don't usually have physical symptoms. So it's
Mm,
easier to put it in the back of my mind. Like, I know I have a heart murmur, I know I have a blood clotting disorder, but unless I'm in pain, I'm not thinking about it. So it's
mm,
easier for me to smile every day and be in a
mm.
better, vibrate higher. So yeah, there's a difference there too.
That's true. Yeah, if you don't have that chronic symptomology, that makes it a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is benefit in having that symptomology if you're willing to work through it. That's what I found last
Yeah.
year.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I was for a while last spring, I was in real pain every single day. I mean, just walking was painful.
Mhm.
Just bending the knees was painful. But
Yeah.
I had that one little sequence of days where I just said, you know what? I'm going to take this stuff that I've learned. I'm going to apply it. I'm going to apply this law of attraction teaching. And by God, I'm going to find some way to break through. And I was kind of like, your friend Kelly, who just kept pounding away at, this baby is coming. I'm going to speak it into existence. I kind of did the same thing. I'm going to speak healing into existence until, like, through sheer determination, I finally managed to take my attention off of the pain in my knees. And
Mhm.
within a week of doing that a few times, like 98% of the pain was gone. Interesting thing, I have not taken the time since then to really do the same kind of focus. So that last 1 to 2% hasn't gone away yet. And this is what, almost a
Mhm.
year later, you know? All I really need to do is just take the time and just really do the same kind of focus that I did a year ago. And I'm sure it would
Yeah.
go away, And I actually sometimes I've done it for a little bit and I've managed to make it go away. And then it comes back because I didn't really do the full work. But it gives you a sense of how much control you really have. Because when you're dealing with something like that and you actually make it go away that quickly, you say, whoa, what was that? That was
Mhm.
cool. How did I do
Yeah.
that? And you start to feel like you actually have power, which is pretty cool.
Mhm.
There are pluses to all of this stuff. I mean, I have come to really appreciate what Joel Elson talks about, how he talks about the value of the struggle, how important struggle is. And it's not
Mhm.
something we usually like to hear about, but there is something to it that just like being determined to just kind of get through no matter what, just break through. That struggle makes you strong. It makes you a
Yeah.
lot stronger than you were, before the incident happened. And I'm beginning to appreciate that more and more. I mean, do you find that with relationships? Relationships, it doesn't seem like that it would quite apply as much, but maybe it does. I don't know. What do you think, Kelly?
Does
Do you run into that? Alex, you think it does?
it definitely does. When you struggle in a relationship and it doesn't work out, then you learn lessons for the next relationship.
Mm.
So that creates more joy in the next relationship.
It also gives you more items for your list, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wish I'd added that one item on the list for the last person. It would have made a huge difference. So you refine your list over time that way.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I what was the question again?
The question was, do you find that struggle plays an important role when it comes to building relationships?
Yeah, I think struggles just really be general. Like struggles being put into our lives for a reason. And like you said, Walt, it does make you stronger. But also, say for instance, at work or in, if you've got your own business, you're going through struggle. It's about always knowing that you're gonna come out the other side, number one, but number two, when you do come out the other side, it's going to be really clear, as long as you're reflective and you're the type of person to look inwards, that there's a lot of lessons in the struggle. Like you would, like there's no person in the world that is extremely, extremely successful that hasn't been through struggle in their life, because it just really helps to streamline what it is that you want to manifest, and also becoming the person that you need to be. Like there's a lot of things that we try and manifest, and actually in order to bring those things into existence, we have to change as people. Like we are not going to be able to have those things unless we're able to go through certain struggle that the universe is giving us for a reason. So it's always staying committed to the knowingness that, okay, I'm going through this for a reason right now, and it's for the highest good, and it's for a good reason, because the universe is in the end going to give me what it is that I want. And it's really, that's the point where people give up. That's the point where people go, actually, this isn't for me, it's too hard.
Yeah, that's true. We have one more question from Jason. Before we get to it, I want to make sure I get my announcements in. So if you're not yet a subscriber to the podcast, please become one. We've made it really simple. Just go to the homepage, loatoday.net, and it actually now shows you the right button to click for whatever your device is. So all you have to do is click it and walk through the steps, and bang, you're subscribed. We've made it just as easy as can be at this point. And then once you're subscribed, make sure that you're sharing with others that you're a subscriber, so that other people can get their daily dose of happy. Because that combination of sharing and subscribing and sharing, that's how we build this thing up. And I know Alice is going to be tapping me on the shoulder and remind me. So I'm going to try to say it before she even says that. But we also have a YouTube channel that we want you to check out. We're putting the link to that channel in all places where we're doing the descriptions for these shows. So just click that link and it'll take you right to the YouTube channel. And that way you can not only see us in video, but also, it's a bell character. Is that what you're supposed to click, Alex?
Well, you're supposed to click subscribe underneath our video, and then there's a little bell character, that you hit, and it'll notify you every time that we do a video.
There it is. Okay. So yes, so subscribe and share as well. Subscribe and get notified as well, I guess is what the word is.
Yeah.
So very
and
good.
Give
So
us
we have, yes. Oh yeah. Give us all the feedback we can get, whether it be likes or comments or whatever. That helps a lot. We really like that.
Yeah.
So Jason has a question, and we could probably go on for about a half an hour on this one, but we only have about 2.5 minutes, so we'll have to do it quick. Kelly, I'm going to have you address it. He says, how can I get my teens interested in the law of attraction? And that's always a challenge. I mean, how do you get somebody else interested in LOA if they're not interested?
Ooh.
And says, do you think he's referring to people that work for him?
I'm not really sure. He just says my teens, so I'm not sure.
Teens, as in teenager.
Teenagers. It could be his kids.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought you meant teams, like teamwork.
Yeah.
Teen, as in Nancy S. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I think that's a difficult one. Like, personally, I think we're all in our own journey, and we're gonna come awaken to the law of attraction in our own time. So I don't necessarily think it's something that you can force on someone else. They're on their own path, and they'll come to it when they're ready. And especially teenagers, like that's a toughie to try and get them interested in it. They're just, I would just trust in the universe that they're going to open themselves up to it when the time's right. You can obviously plant the seeds. You can show them, you can lead by example. You can show them the amazing things that you're manifesting into your life and tell them why, but you unfortunately won't be able to make them live that way as well. But they will come to it when they're ready.
Right. Yeah. It's the old cliche. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that's true for your kids as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most important things for a parent to let go of is I've got to get my kids to learn something. That's one thing that I learned when I helped to set up that alternative school, that you got to let go of I gotta teach my kids things. No, you don't. You really don't. Honestly, the kids are very good. Everybody is born with these little built-in compasses that just kind of drive us in the right direction. You just gotta let it
Yeah.
go, you know. And will they get there? I agree with Kelly. I think eventually they will, but
Yeah.
it won't happen until you let go. I mean, I,
And the more we push that onto them as well, especially at like
yeah,
teenager age, the more they're going to resist it and probably
absolutely,
rebel and do the complete opposite.
Yep. That's a
that's
fact.
exactly what happens. So, with that thought in mind, I think we've come to a conclusion here. Thank you to our live stream audience for their questions. We had great questions today. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well, who without whom we wouldn't have much of a podcast because you guys are the large chunk of our audience. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us for another week. We appreciate
Like,
your presence and your participation. And thank you, Alex, also, because you're like my regular now. Alex does 3 shows a week with me now, Kelly. I mean, she's become a real regular.
wow,
So
that's
really, really
epic.
good stuff. Yeah, it is epic. It's wonderful. I love it. So thank you all. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.